All right. Welcome to JMB Unsupervised. Uh man, we got a serious wild card weekend starting tomorrow. We got some pretty good games, my guy. Some pretty good games. We got Houston and Cleveland. I think that game's gonna be pretty thrilling. I think that could be like who's got the ball last type of game.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think for me, it comes down to more of how, Joe Flacco actually shows up or not. If Joe Flacco could easily lose or win them that game, I don't really see CJ Stroud. Everyone says he hasn't really been on that stage personally, but
He's
he was in
definitely
big
making he's
games.
making he's making his playoff debut. So I mean there's gonna be some,
If
you
Joe,
know,
it comes to me like I mean I think the game will be close, but like it's be come down to Joe Flacco. Like Joe Flacco will either win or lose the game for the Browns. If the Browns have the ball last, like I think Joe Flacco will come through. But I mean I think it'll come down to Joe Flacco. He can either win it for you or lose it for you.
yeah, that's a fair statement. I'm curious to see what this Browns defense does against CJ Stroud. I mean, he's a guy making his playoff debut, obviously. He had one of the best rookie seasons from a quarterback in the last couple years, obviously. It's unfortunate that he missed 3 games for the concussion, but yeah, I'm curious to see what the Browns defense does and what can the Houston offense do. Obviously, they're missing some guys due to injury. Obviously, Tank Dell being one of those big guys they're going to be missing on the offensive side for Houston.
Well, the big thing for the Browns defense is whether or not they can stay in man because according to the smart people, CJ Stroud's great when it comes to zone, but man to man, he's like bottom 25, 30th range when it comes to going against man coverage, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's where he
To me,
ranks
I
in that.
think where Houston can kind of make the tide, and this is personally for me, is if Houston could figure a way to run the football, to get rid of that pass rush from Cleveland, run the ball, force them to back off a little bit. You know what I mean? That will give CJ a
Well, I mean,
little
they do
bit
have
more.
some pretty stout left tackles. I mean, they have learned the Tunsil. They're on the left side, so I mean, he should. I mean, the offensive line hasn't been that bad. This really sad thing for the Texans really is the rookie running back from last year, Prince or Price, whatever his name
Yeah,
is, something like that. He's really been he just disappeared this year. It's really just kind of been Singletary.
yeah.
But
So that to me, I think if Houston can find a run game and you're not having to have CJ out there throwing it 30, 40 times in his playoff debut, I think it'll be big. I have Houston winning. I'm going to say Houston wins 31-28. I think Houston gets the ball last and they go down and get it. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying
yeah,
31-28.
I think I do think that game probably comes into whoever has the ball last, just because I think Joe Flacco is going to keep the Texans in that game. Because CJ Stroud will make his rookie mistakes as he is a rookie in
Yeah.
that stage, but I think Joe Flacco is just as inconsistent. And there's a reason why he came out, why he was not on no team, and he came off his own couch,
Yeah.
literally like 6, 7 weeks ago.
So are you going Browns or are you going Houston?
I'm going to go. I'm going to go Texans. I think Texans get the technically the upset on that. I like I said. I think Joe Flacco gives it away.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm with. I think Houston takes. I think it's going to be the nail biter. And then moving off to we got the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, our squad. And before we even get into that, I just know Miami has to be kicking themselves in the ass for not winning their division and have to come to Kansas City and play in an ice bowl, pretty much. Like, you have to be so mad because you had the division on lock and you threw it away.
Yeah, that's pretty tough for Miami. I mean, they were the had the division wrapped up. Literally, they had to win 2 out of the next like 3 games. They had a 3 game lead going to 4 weeks left, and they dropped literally pretty much all of them, I'm pretty sure, and had a chance to clinch it in the last week of the season and put up 14 points against Buffalo. I mean,
Yeah.
they've only beat one actual good team, one playoff team, which is the Cowboys, which isn't saying a lot considering they've only beat one technically winning team in Seattle, but Tua hasn't even won a game under 45 degrees, so the odds don't look good with 20-mile-per-hour
Yeah.
winds this
It's
Saturday. I don't see
gonna be tough.
Tua's baby arm throwing at all. I mean, he's going to be throwing 10-yard
But
passes, if that.
well, you got obviously Patrick Mahomes, who's won 11 playoff games. He's been in, and then Tua is making his playoff debut because obviously Tua was hurt last year, so he didn't get to play in the playoffs.
Well, you talked about C.J. Stroud in big stages as a rookie. This is Tua's biggest stage he's ever been on as
Yeah,
well.
So there's going to be some pressure on that too, and like you said, he's never won a game basically in the cold, and then you got to look at this game too, and obviously us as Chiefs fans, not being biased, I just don't see, even with our offensive struggles, and we already know what our defense could do because they showed it last time against Miami. Obviously, you're going to have to make changes. Not going to play it the same way we did in the regular season. But when I look at Miami, I just don't see how they have a chance in this game for the simple fact of the injuries. They're missing so much on the defensive side of the ball. I don't even know how. They went and got, what was it, Houston and Bryce Irving. They picked up, I believe. I don't know if those guys are playing or not, but I just don't think they have enough defensively to, even with the struggles on the offense side of the ball for Kansas City, I still don't think it's enough.
Well,
They
that's
don't
why
have enough.
Well, that's where I see it kind of benefits Kansas City's offense because they don't have the pass rush to get after. Because I mean, our weak is our tackles, on our
Yeah.
offensive line, and the guys they lost are the edge rushers, and they're replacing them with 35-year-old guys. I mean, that's not that haven't been on
They're
a
not going to
team.
rush.
So
They're not
Mahomes
going
going
to
to have
rush like
time in
that.
the pocket, and it's going to be cold, so the amount of drops or the opportunities for drops and to pass is going to be limited. And what eliminates speed is cold. Like Tyreek Hill is fast, the rookie running back they have is fast, but what slows you down is the cold and having to hit Pacheco over and over and over again. By the halfway through the third quarter, they're just going to choose not to hit him.
You're
They
not going to
chose
want to
not to
hit
hit
that
Josh
type.
Allen in a must-win game to win the division, so you didn't have to travel to Kansas City. And there was literally, I think, a corner that literally pulled up and didn't even take out Josh Allen on a crucial third
Yeah.
down.
And then you look at it too. Obviously, this game's going to be really cold. I mean, we're talking wind chills in the negative 31s. But with all the injuries, like, where do you think Miami puts Jalen Ramsey in this game? Do you put him on the rookie? Do you put him on Travis Kelce?
Well, I think Travis Kelce is just too big for Jalen for
Well, because they
Ramsey.
did that, if we remember back to when they played in the regular season, they put Ramsey on Kelce a lot, and it didn't work out. Like Jalen can't, he can't. Like you said, he's
No.
too big.
Well, that's the dilemma with Kelce is you can't put a safety on him, you can't put a corner on him because he's too big, he's too tall, and you can't put a normal sized linebacker on him because he's too fast. So you kind of get in a dilemma. I mean, they might, but I mean, I think your best bet if I was them would be to jam Kelce at the line and take away Rice. I mean, take away Rice and you jam Kelce. There's not really a viable option outside of Pacheco running the ball and catching out of the backfield.
All I have to say is this is a good favorable matchup in the instant for Kansas City with all the defensive injuries for Miami to really get the offense clicking. Even though it's going to be a cold game, if you can get some type of confidence, no matter what it is, no drop passes, or we only got 2 or 3 drop passes and the offense is moving and we're just clicking, this would be the game to really get it in
Well,
right here against Miami.
could definitely be considered a get right game really for our offense and our defense really to show out and to show that they belong in that conversation of being to me a top 3 defense in the league this year in the play against Miami.
I truly see. Obviously, I'm going Kansas City. I think Kansas City wins this game 17-7. Like I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game because of the cold. I think it's going to come down to touchdowns, not field goals. I just don't see you kicking field goals in this game with that wind. I just don't see it.
Yeah,
Not long field goals. I don't think you're going to be kicking no 40, 50-yard field goals in this game. Hell, I don't even know if you'd be kicking 30-yard field goals.
yeah. No, I mean, I have to agree with you. I probably see something kind of like maybe like a 13, 17, 13, 20 game in favor of
Yeah.
obviously Kansas City. I think our defense is gonna, I'll shut them down, and I think we're going to make just enough plays to. I mean, like when we played them in Germany, we won by one score in a neutral field. Now you're coming in the cold where the Dolphins clearly don't thrive. They don't beat good teams. And we are the healthier team, top to bottom, and they are injury plagued. I don't even know if Waddle's going to play, which would be a huge
That would be
negative for them as well.
But so next game we have on our list is the Buffalo Bills versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you got Josh Allen versus Mason Rudolph. But this is going to be another cold game.
Yeah, snow game.
It's snow game. There's no T.J. Watt for Pittsburgh.
But they don't
You have
matter. They
Mason
matter now
Rudolph,
though because you can't really throw the ball. Like I mean, you're on the miss TJ in the pass rush, but
So I think Buffalo wins this game. The only way I give Pittsburgh a shot, and this is the only way I give Pittsburgh a shot, is if they can somehow force Josh Allen to create turnovers. They shorten the field for themselves, and they can get quick touchdowns because of the shortened field. If they can't do that, I don't think they even have a shot in this game because for whatever reason, when Josh Allen plays in games with snow, he just comes out. He just thinks, "Yeah, I can still throw the ball, and this no problem. I got this." Like I don't know what it is about Josh Allen in these snow games. He just I don't know what he turns into, but it's definitely unfortunate for Pittsburgh. But I just think this is going to be. I would be lucky enough if Pittsburgh even gets 14 points on the board.
well, I think if the weather actually holds like they're saying, I think it will be. I mean, you'd be lucky to see 2 touchdowns per team. But I personally, I think if the weather actually holds, I think that it could honestly favor Pittsburgh in the sense that they do have the bigger running backs and Najee Harris and in Warren. I mean, Josh Allen definitely will get his fair, carries of the ball for Buffalo. But I think, to me, if the weather holds, that is actually a benefit for the Steelers. And if the weather actually holds, I would have the Steelers taking it on a last-second field goal.
I think another way Pittsburgh could stay in this game is if they can run the ball against Buffalo's defense. If they can keep Josh Allen on the sideline, they can run the ball.
But not just looked good the last couple of weeks of the season. I mean, they've leaned on the running attack. And George, I mean, and Pickens. I mean, Pickens has kind of came alive here a little bit with Mason Rudolph throwing him the ball versus the other Pickens or.
I mean, it's another quarterback too making basically his playoff debut. Mason Rudolph's never started a playoff game. He's obviously been on the team when they've been in the playoffs, but he's never been the starting quarterback. So he's got a little bit of some, I guess you say experience, but this is probably the one game I think that can be very lopsided. Obviously, I got Buffalo winning this game. I think it's going to be like 21-28 to like maybe 14 for Pittsburgh, unless Pittsburgh's able to, like you said, get something going and can kind of control the game.
Well, I just feel like Josh Allen's going to give them at least 2 picks. They're going to at least turn the ball over at least twice.
He's going to take a shot at some point that could cause, But I mean, it's going to be where at in the game do you do it? Like if you do it in the first quarter, cool. If you're doing it at the end of the game, that could be really the problem.
Yeah.
So, and then let's see. We got also the other game we got here. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this game, I think, has the potential to be a big upset for Philly losing. I think Philly has you got all the injuries we talked about on their side. I mean, Jalen Hurts' finger hasn't thrown all week. A.J. Brown, knee injury, hasn't practiced all week. The offense has not looked the same. Defense don't look the same. This is a team that started 10-1 thought, oh God, they're going to go back, and then collapsed, losing 5 of their last 6 games.
Yeah, I mean, I expect, both those key guys to play, but they also haven't looked very. I mean, they've lost the last 3 games in a row and got stomped out by the Giants in a must-win game in the last week of the season. It didn't end up mattering. The Cowboys ended up winning anyways, but they're not. When you hit the playoffs, you want to be hot, and they're not hot. They're not clicking. They're sputtering at the wrong moments, and the Buccaneers are just scrappy enough to, potentially pull a win, pull a
And,
W
and
on
you're
them on the
playing
road.
a team in Tampa that is also trying to prove something. Everybody said they weren't going to go nowhere because Tom Brady was gone. And, Baker Mayfield has came in and obviously replaced Tom, because obviously Tom is retired. And everybody wrote off Baker. And Baker had quite the season.
Yeah.
Like, had quite the season. Mike Evans still another 1,000-yard season with Baker at the helm. And to me, I think Tampa's actually been quite hot. I mean, they've came back in some games. Obviously, their final game of the year was a rough one against the Carolina Panthers, but I mean, nevertheless, a win's a win. But if if Philly doesn't start clicking quickly and they start this game off slow, and you give Tampa any life, I think Philadelphia is in big trouble.
Well, I mean,
Big trouble.
Tampa's defense is subpar to say the least. I mean, just like we said, this could be a kind of a get right game for the Chiefs against the Dolphins, trying to make the offense feel kind of good. This is definitely like a make yourself feel good kind of game against the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles, top to bottom on paper, are tremendously better. Even in the coaching staff, should be better than what Tampa is. And I think you could definitely probably see some kind of a shootout throughout the game if both defenses. I mean, Eagles have so much talent on defense, but yet for some reason it's not showing up this year. And Tampa, like I said, is subpar defense.
Do you feel, and this is me asking you, do you feel like if Philadelphia is to lose this game, right, and they lose, say they, for the sake of argument, they lose bad, like really bad, do you see head coach gone, offensive coordinator gone, defensive coordinator gone, or are we just talking offense and defensive coordinator? Like, what do you think would need to change in Philadelphia if, say, they lose this game badly?
Well, everybody watches, the big talking heads on TV. They've said that there's already callings for the head coach, especially if they don't make a deep playoff run. But to me, you ran back the same roster offensively and defensively. You got better. I mean, you lost some pieces, but you got younger and you got better talent, and you're underperforming tremendously on defense. I mean, the defense had definitely cost them a couple games this year.
Secondary's been very sus.
And to me, I don't think they make they might get squeaked by Tampa, but I think you definitely have to take a long look at doing something defensively for sure. Firing. I would definitely fire my defense coordinators and look at bringing in, like a Mike Vrabel type coach that could get more out of my defense. Because I mean, you have too much talent that's being wasted offensively. It's just tough that you don't run the same scheme that you ran with Jalen Hurts last year. I mean, you're just not using him fully.
I heard on I don't know if it was, I think it was First Take. One of the guys up there said that if Philadelphia struggles continue to say they lose in the second round, they should consider bringing in Bill Belichick as a defensive coordinator. Do you think that is something Philly would entertain, or do you think Belichick would entertain being an assistant coach, not the head coach?
I think it's would be amazing for Philly to be able to give him as a defensive coordinator, but I don't think it's anything at all that Bill Belichick would ever in his life ever take a step back and be a defensive coordinator, especially with him being 15, 16 wins away from the all-time win record.
Yeah,
I don't see him doing that at all. If I'm Philly, it's definitely a thought of firing your head coach and hiring the best head coach, ever. Definitely top 2, top 3 head coach of all time ever, and chase, a ring for 5 years with him as your head coach. Because that defense would be scary. I mean, you saw what they do with New England. Have defense. He just needs a quarterback, and you got Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Smith, You got Swift in the backfield, Kelsey
Yeah.
snapping him the ball. I mean, I mean, it definitely would scare the hearts of Dallas fans for sure.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to say that Philadelphia loses the game. I'm taking Tampa. I think Tampa wins. I'm going to say 24-21. I think this is another close game, and Tampa gets the game. I'm going Tampa on this one.
Yeah, for me, I think I would probably have to ride with the Eagles on the road.
Okay.
You just got to go. I mean, it's a coin flip for me, so you got to go with the better quarterback. And even though I don't like their head coach, the head coach, I still go with the Eagles head coach and quarterback's better than theirs. So you got to roll with that one.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. That's our first disagreement. It was eventually going to come. So
Eventually, it was eventually going to come. A lot more to come, honestly. You're wrong most
next
of
up,
the time, anyways.
next up, we got a very interesting game: the Lions and Rams. Detroit's first home playoff game since the 1990s, I think it is, 1970s.
Something
I
like
think.
that. They had the
So
longest
it's
drought for
been a
sure.
very long time.
Yeah, they got the longest drought.
So obviously you have Matthew Stafford returning back to Detroit where it all started for him. 12 years there with that franchise. Two quarterbacks swapped for each other. What do you think? How do you think this game's going to go? One, because you got Stafford returning. This is Detroit's first home game, and I don't have a whole lot of expectations for Detroit to make a long run. The expectation was to win your division, make the playoffs. Now it's time to try to win a playoff game.
Yeah,
How do you see this game going?
well, it's their first home game since 1994. So about almost 30 years. Yeah, makes some people feel really old.
It's very
And
old.
I think for Matthew Stafford, it's going to be kind of a heartwarming feeling. I think he's going to get definitely a welcoming back when he runs out onto the field or gets introduced. But I personally, I think I would definitely see. I think the Rams, they're just kind of hot. They're kind of clicking. The line's a little banged up. They also are one of those teams that they thrive against kind of bad teams. They don't really have that many great wins. I mean, yeah, they got Kansas City. They did get gypped against the Cowboys, but and I mean they did get the Packers who did make the playoffs. But I mean they just really don't have that really good solid resume win. And I think the Rams, with the experience and the better head coach, I think they get it done in a nail biter.
So you're going Rams all the way on this.
I got the Rams taking the Lions with Matthew Stafford in his homecoming, showing that the Rams made their correct trade. Fuck them picks.
I think this game is actually going to be a lot closer than I think what some people may think. I'm going with the Lions. I would like to see them get their first playoff win, obviously, in a very long time. But I wouldn't be mad if Stafford got it either. I mean, it's definitely going to be one of those like Lions fans. Like, what do you do? Do you give Matthew Stafford a tribute video in a playoff game? Like, do you do that in the playoffs?
I don't see why not. I mean, there's nothing about good sportsmanship beginning of the game where the game starts. I mean, it's like, hey, congrats, thanks for, I think, getting them to one playoff game, I think, in his time there, and being a franchise caliber player and a good face of the organization. Pat on the back, and then boo,
He always showed up to
Stafford.
work. He showed up to work. He played through injuries. He gave it his all. It
It's
was
not.
unfortunate when he was there. They didn't have good teams, and they never could get a good team, And they had great players there. Just it never seemed to click. And
Yeah.
so, but it's definitely going to be very good game. I got Lions. I think Lions win it. Again, I think it's one of those another field goal type of game. Like I really do. I think some of these games over the weekend are going to be field goal games, but and then our last game on the schedule for the weekend is the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas obviously being a phenom at home. Jordan Love's making his postseason debut as well. What are your thoughts on this game? I mean, obviously,
I mean, honestly, the Cowboys should wax the Packers. I mean, I mean, Jordan Love's first year starting, first year in the playoffs. The Cowboys they on paper have a way better roster. They should take care of the Packers with no problems. But I mean, I can see it being a very hard fought, contest back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's. I mean, I think Dak. I think Dak and CeeDee Lamb is a better duo than anything the Packers have on that side.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong about that. Um, it's hard because like I'm picking the Cowboys, and it hurts to say that I am taking the Cowboys, but it's also in the back of my mind. It's like, are you gonna mess this up again? Like, are you gonna mess up another postseason where you were supposed to make a deep run and you just made mistake after mistake and you just buried yourself?
Well,
We remember last year
well, last time
they
they
did the same thing.
Well, last time the Cowboys actually beat the Packers in the past 10 years, if they played in the past 10 years, they've only beat the Packers, or the Cowboys have only beat the Packers once in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Which is the Packers and Cowboys in recent history have had pretty good playoff games. Did Dez catch it? Did Dez not catch it? I mean, they've had a lot of good games, and it should hopefully be another good one. But the Cowboys really shouldn't have this game be close at all. I mean, they're not on
No.
the same level. The Packers are just happy that they made it, and the Cowboys are Super Bowl-esque type bound.
I mean, I mean, kudos to Green Bay for actually making the playoffs. I don't think anybody. I mean, I didn't think they were making the playoffs. I'll be honest. I didn't think they were getting in. Um, Obviously, it was unfortunate for some certain teams in the NFC that got hurt, lost some key players, and obviously that was that. But yeah, no, the Cowboys should take this game very easily. Defensively, that Cowboys defense, you're at home. I don't see why you don't get at least 4 to 6 sacks in this game, maybe a couple turnovers as well. I mean, Micah Parsons is definitely in running to possibly be the defensive player of the year. I mean, you got to have your name all over this game, all over this game,
Oh,
and
yeah, I agree. It's going
he's
to come
got to
down to the
be.
defense.
It's definitely going to be defense. I think the defense is going to create more points than the offense will because, and the reason I say that is again, I can't trust Dak in the postseason. There's nothing in his career that's proven to me that I can trust you in the postseason. So that's why I'm leaning on their defense to get the job done, get Green Bay off the field, set down the offense up in great field position to just score quick touchdowns and get right back off the field.
Yeah,
That's kind of how I see this game going.
I mean, if as long as Dallas's defense shows up at home like they have been throughout the year, they should, hypothetically be fine. But again, if the Cowboys don't really have a running game with Tony Pollard. It's really just CeeDee Lamb, sprinkle and cook a little bit, and
Yeah.
and then that's that. But in the playoffs, you're allowed to play a little bit different kind of defense, a little bit more handzier. So, if you take Brandon Cook out of it, I don't know why teams have problems taking out certain wide receivers. And we all know you take this guy away, the offense is limited. Take Travis Kelce away, Chiefs' offense is limited. Take, Tyreek
To
Hill
me, I
away,
think
he's limited.
Alexander for Green Bay should be on CeeDee Lamb. Like wherever CeeDee goes,
He's
Alexander should be. That's your best. That's the best guy you have on defense. He has to be on CeeDee. He can't be on anybody else. I don't care if they motion him. You move with him. I will live or die with you being on him. And if he catches the ball over you, then you know what? I'll have to live with that.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you're Green Bay.
I mean, they're going to live and die by CeeDee Lamb. If they shut CeeDee Lamb down, the game's going to be close. But if they can't contain, last week of the season, CeeDee Lamb had 13 catches. Like, you can't let that happen. Like, you got to limit his catches. You got to take the best player. You got to make them play with their opposite hand.
So we were talking about, like you said, in the playoffs, you're allowed to play a little differently, a little bit more handsy. Are you at all concerned with the officiating that we possibly could get in these NFL playoffs, knowing the officiating that we've gotten in the regular season this year with a lot of controversies, blown calls, no calls, everything that has gone on? Are you at all concerned about the officiating in the playoffs?
Yeah, I would not be surprised
I'm
if
talking for
one
all the
game.
games. Like,
I wouldn't be surprised if one game this weekend is not decided by the referees, whether it's a bad call or a blown call, no call, whatever it may be. I would not be surprised if it's a game is not decided by the refs. Just throughout the regular season, we've seen them being inconsistent, not held accountable. At some point, the referees have to be held accountable for the inconsistency. And to me, it's funny that you can't call the referees out when the media asks you, blah, blah, what do you think about this call? And you say how you feel, and then the NFL turns around and finds the coach, the player, whoever. It's like,
I just,
well, what are you trying to hide? Like, they
yeah.
messed up. They messed up. They should be, fined. They should be brought down a peg. They shouldn't be allowed to ref such high contest games. And I
Well,
wouldn't
it's
be surprised
also,
if the
to
game is
me,
like
it's
that.
concerning that the National Football League is the most watched sport in America. Obviously, it's football. That this is, and we do not have full time referees. We're the only sport that don't have full time referees. I think that's very weird. We're the only sport without a 2 minute report. Like, I don't understand why don't we have full time employees at the referee position. I think this is crazy. You have guys that have been officiating for 16, 18 plus years, and they're doing this part time. Like, I just think that is absolutely crazy that we don't have full time referees for with like we're saying, because we can't hold them accountable because they're part time. Like, I'm sorry, if I'm at my job and I mess up, pull part time or full time, I'm still getting in trouble.
Yeah.
So I just think it's, like you said, it's wrong that these guys are blowing these calls, and you have a head official in the booth telling you he messed up, or I wouldn't have done that, or he shouldn't have done that. Well, if he shouldn't have done it, then why is he doing that? Isn't that what New York's for?
Well, that's my thing. Is if it just like there's like you have replays and the replay and they almost immediately know nowadays. I have to actually go underneath the hood. If there's a bad flag, like there's a bad PI call or no PI call, that call there should have been one. Why can't they buzz down and be like, hey, you missed the call, or hey, that's a no call? But a lot of these head officials, a lot of these crews that have had the bad games are the crews that have been double-digit years reffing in the league. So it's not like they don't have the experience in the league to ref it. I mean, this like the crew that ref the Lions and Cowboys game turned around and got a primetime slot to ref the Saturday night game. That doesn't make no sense to me. How do you give them that?
Awarded at the same time.
How do you award somebody for messing up? I mean, that's like saying you show up late to work and I give you a bonus because you showed up late.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I just really hope, because when you look at the playoff games that we're getting, there is a lot of great games, a lot of great stories behind some of these games. I mean,
a lot of great stories.
You got Browns in Houston. Obviously, Deshaun's not playing, but Deshaun was on the Houston Texans and was traded to the Browns. So, I mean, obviously that's not the storyline. You got Kansas City.
They do have all those picks that they had those picks that they traded to Texans that turned into CJ Stroud.
Even in itself is a big game. I mean, you got Kansas City, Miami. Tyreek Hill finally returns to Arrowhead. You got Baker Mayfield and Jalen Hurts Part 2. Matthew Stafford goes back to Detroit. Mike McCarthy facing the Packers, his former team. There's just a lot going on here. I would hate to see the officiating crew ruin something when you have these great of playoffs. You know, these are probably some of the best playoffs we've had in a couple of years. I know we say that almost every year, but we actually got storylines to go along with these games.
Yeah, like I said,
there's a storyline in each game. Even the Buffalo and Pittsburgh game, there's still a storyline there.
Yeah, I mean, the script writers did a really good job for the wild card round. I mean, NFL script writers, they made it very interesting. They made it very drama filled. I mean, I feel like I'm kind of watching a soap opera, honestly.
So that's a good way of looking at it. I just really hope that the officiating crews are just on point, and we're just not having these mistakes or blown calls.
I just hope I don't have to talk about the refs after this weekend. I hope I'm not like, blah, blah, the refs.
About a crew, we should talk about, man, did you see the such and such 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, and just, talking about the players, not
talking
not
about
the
the
officials.
actual game, not the refs, how they cost this team, they missed this flag or penalty or what have you.
So something I'd like to talk about, and I know you got to be a little bit balled up to talk about this too. So the All Pro teams came out today, and there was one Pacific person that was missing on the defensive side. How does L'Jarius Sneed one get snubbed off the Pro Bowl? Doesn't make the first team All Pro, and is not even on the All Second team.
I don't know.
The best corner in the league, no touchdowns, no 100-yard games.
You don't even have,
How does that?
you don't have to say you don't have to go as far to even to say he's the best corner in the league or even the best corner in the AFC. I mean, I personally think if he's not one, he's two, but he's not even the Chiefs. Trent McDuffie made it on the All Pro team.
I love Trent McDuffie.
I do. He's great.
No.
He's promising. Obviously, he did a great job, but he didn't. He made it over Sneed. Sneed travels. McDuffie doesn't travel. They're not on that same level. Sneed's the best corner on the team, but yet McDuffie made it.
Anything away from Sauce Gardner, but was Sauce Gardner really All Pro this year? Even though the Jets, obviously, you have to take into consideration, and I get he was still phenomenal, but I just don't think you could have been All Pro this year. And I'm not trying to pick on Sauce, but it's like, I don't even know if he should have been there either.
Well, I mean, I think Sauce had in the standard that he set.
Witherspoon over there in Seattle? I mean, he had a great year, and he's got a great case too.
I mean, he does.
But if anybody gets to replace, I would love to obviously replace McDuffie with L'Jarius Sneed.
I think Sneed should replace anybody on that list. I mean, Sneed was the number one corner throughout the league. I mean, he definitely outperformed everybody and traveled, and like you said, allowed 0 touchdowns.
Like we said, so defense, our edge rushers were Myles Garrett, TJ Watt. No disagreements there. Interior linemen, Aaron Donald and Chris Jones. Clearly no problems there.
Back to defensive tackles.
Linebackers, we had Fred Warner, Roquan Smith, and Quincy Williams.
Yeah.
No disagreements there.
Not really. No, I mean those are all solid.
And then obviously we've talked about the cornerbacks. Deron Bland, Sauce Gardner, and Trent McDuffie were the corners. And then safeties was Kyle Hamilton and Antoine Whitfield Jr., who is another guy that got snubbed on the Pro Bowl as well. Should have been a Pro Bowler this year.
So I guess the real question really is what is more important to make? Is it more important to make the Pro Bowl or the All Pro team?
I would say the All Pro team. I mean, me personally, I think the Pro Bowl is obviously it's a joke at this point. I mean, I don't know. To me, the National Football League's got to figure out something to do with the Pro Bowl because you're never getting the guys you want in the Pro Bowl anyway. You're giving other guys Pro Bowl selections that really shouldn't be at the Pro Bowl.
I mean, how did Tyler Huntley, the backup quarterback for the Ravens last year, he has a Pro Bowl nod?
And he had like a really bad record last year too.
How does a backup quarterback go to the Pro Bowl? I mean, I get that he played, 5, 6 games in the playoff game last year, but you were the backup quarterback for the Ravens and you somehow make the Pro Bowl as an alternate.
So then let's talk about the offensive All-Pros. So quarterback, we had Lamar Jackson. Do you have any problems with Lamar Jackson being first team All-Pro?
No, he was well-deserved in my mind.
Are you shocked that it wasn't Dak or Brock Purdy at all?
No, I would have had more problems if it was Dak or Brock Purdy. People trying to act like Dak has such a great year.
That would have been a lot of 49ers.
Yeah, but
think about it. Your running back, Christian McCaffrey, 49ers. Your fullback, Kyle Jaskansky, 49er.
No.
I botched that name really bad. We're going to stick with Kyle. And then George Kittle, tight end. I don't know if I agree with that one fully. I think TJ Hawkinson probably should have been in that spot.
Yeah, I think TJ Hawkinson with everything. Well, he got hurt, but that was only a handful of weeks left of the season, but he did it with a backup quarterback while Kittle did it with, Brock Purdy, and that there's levels to quarterbacks no matter where you put Brock Purdy, and Hawkinson still is just underappreciated at the tight end position, honestly.
So wide receivers, we had Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Any problems with those three being the wide receivers?
We have Tyreek Hill, Mont St. Brown, and who?
And CeeDee Lamb.
I mean, I probably got that probably about as close as they could get it, personally.
Yeah. And then left tackle, we had Trent Williams.
Okay.
Right tackle, Sinwell from Detroit.
Yeah, dude been balling.
Joe Tooney from Kansas City.
There you go.
Zach Martin from Dallas. And then center Jason Kelce, which again, I feel like Chris Humphrey just not getting any love. I'm not trying to toot my own horn on my own team. But again, Jason Kelce's had some mistakes this year. He's had some mistakes.
Yeah. I mean, he's had a lot of costly
penalties. Not
penalties.
saying he don't deserve it, but again, another Chiefs player that I feel like, again, doesn't give up sacks, doesn't give up many pressures really at all.
I think, and he's allowed, I think maybe one sack in the past 3 years. And yeah, he hasn't had any costly penalties. Jason Kelce has had some costly penalties. And I don't think a lot of people even really knew of Jason Kelce until, about 3 years ago, honestly.
Yeah.
It's not a knock on him. He's a center, but
it's you're not wrong. But all in all, the All-Pro first team offense defense wasn't terribly bad. I
think they messed up on corner, but that's about it.
Football League. Oh, why L'Jarius Sneed is being blackballed, but I need to know.
He made somebody mad. I don't know who's trying to dock him some money, but so he made somebody mad.
So next, who is under quarterback wise? Give me 3 quarterbacks that are the most pressure in these NFL playoffs. In your opinion, the 3 quarterbacks that are most pressure.
I mean, you got to say that.
In order. Give them to me
in order. In order. Well, you got it. To me, well, 1 through 3. So one, I would, has to be Dak. I mean, you play for America's team.
Dak is 2-4 in the playoffs,
and eventually you got to start getting it done. This is statistically his best year ever. You fired your offensive coordinator last year. He has to be. I mean, it's Super Bowl or bust. The NFC Championship game is not good enough for Dak and the Cowboys. Like, he's under him and his head coach have the most pressure. Lamar for me would be 2. You got to prove that you can get it done.
Lamar is 1-3 in the postseason.
You got to prove that you can get it done. I mean, definitely a minimum is the AFC Championship, which should be literally no struggle since you had the number 1 seed in the bye week. You go win 1 game to get there. And part of me kind of wants to say Josh Allen, but I'm going to go with Brock Purdy. I mean, the 7th round pick, you're trying to look to get paid. They obviously, are semi-invested in him. He's looking to get paid because he's living with a roommate in Cali. He ain't got no money. To me, Brock Purdy and Mike Shanahan are paired with the most pressure at number 3 to try to. I mean, an NFC Championship game again is not good enough. It's Super Bowl or bust because prove that you're that guy that can get them to the promised land. They don't have to win it at the Super Bowl, but they have to get to the dance.
Fair enough. I pretty much almost agree with you all the way. In my order, Lamar Jackson's number 1. You're about to be a 2-time league MVP, obviously, because he's going to win the award. Unfortunately,
CMC.
We'll get to. And like I said, you're 1-3 in the postseason. You're 1-3. You've played, and there's really no excuses for him this year. You have the weapons, the defense. Was it 16.5 points per game?
Yeah, I think so.
So, I mean, at some point we have to see your regular season success translate to your postseason. In the regular season, he's averaging, 184 yards a game for his career. This year he's averaging 230 yards a game this year. Career best right here. Or sorry, no, it's not his career best. Second best in his career. And then we go to the playoffs, and he's averaging 225 for his career in the playoffs. But his first year in the playoffs, 194. Obviously, in 2019, 365, and then in 2020, 170. At some point, you have to put it all together. And to me, this is a year where you got to put it all together. I do think an AFC Championship game is cementing. It's not enough. It's AFC Championship or Super Bowl for them, in my opinion. If you get to the AFC Championship and you just happen to lose a close one and you played well, cool. To Dak. I've always said I've never worried about Dak and the Cowboys in the regular season because you're going to get into the postseason. What can you do for me in the postseason? And so far, it's been nothing. And then my third is Josh Allen. And the reason I say Josh Allen, we consider Josh Allen over the last couple of years to be one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the National Football League. He's been to one AFC Championship game. And then since then has not been able to get back to that hump. They've actually regressed. This season they've had struggles. We're able to turn it back on. And they're probably one of the hottest teams in the AFC right now. One of the hottest teams coming into the postseason. And so I think there's a lot of pressure riding on Josh to get Buffalo back to the AFC Championship game, Super Bowl. So
Yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree with Josh Allen. I mean, he's been he's been to the AFC Championship game and lost to what would be then the Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs.
yeah,
And I mean, he's consistently in the dance. I mean, I just feel like, I mean, there's more quarterbacks that are in the dance that have something more to prove. Josh Allen has proven more times than not to me that he's been able to do it. He's been able to put on the Superman cape and be him. When Brock Purdy kind of had the opportunity this year and shit the bed going 0-3 when he lost his left tackle in Debo. Dak hasn't really proven it in tough games to be him. But I mean, Josh Allen, he definitely has a tendency to throw.
Though, if it wasn't for Deshaun Watson being hurt, and Deshaun Watson was in these playoffs, he would be one of the guys on this list under some pressure. A lot of pressure.
Probably, he definitely would have to be. I mean, you probably would have to have like a 2A, 2B. Honestly, yeah. I mean,
unfortunately he's hurt, but that's besides the point. But yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, Josh has been him in the playoffs. It's just been more. You know, you got to get back. You're running out of time, especially in the AFC.
What's really kind of impressive about the Browns, though, is kind of a little bit of a side note, is that they lost. I think people kind of forget. I mean, yeah, they lost Watson, but they lost Nick Chubb. They've been doing everything they've been doing without Nick Chubb and Joe Flacco off the bench that's falling asleep on the sidelines. Honestly, you could say, like, the Joe Flacco coming in, honestly, they look better.
4 quarterbacks this season. 4.
But you can say they look better with Joe Flacco under center than they ever did, really, with Watson and Nick Chubb in the backfield. Now, honestly, Nick Chubb, that's on him, getting hurt in the second week of the season. But, I mean, Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson is kind of, you look at their stats, they played about the exact same amount of games this year, and Flacco has looked better statistically and by the eye test. It's kind of tough.
Put up big yards, too, something Deshaun has not done since he's been a Cleveland Brown.
Yeah, but he also put up a lot of interceptions, though, too. But still figured out a way to win.
You bring up that point, and let me get your opinion. Say Joe Flacco, and obviously the defense is going to be doing some carrying, too, but they're going to rely on Joe Flacco. He's got to put points up, obviously. If this Cleveland team, say, gets to an AFC Championship game, what does that mean for the Cleveland Browns and Deshaun Watson? Who you gave all this guaranteed money to? You gave up,
guaranteed.
Like what as a Cleveland fan, as a football fan, what does Cleveland do? Do you just roll back to Deshaun Watson? To me, I don't know if you can roll back to Deshaun Watson if you make it to an AFC Championship game.
What else do you do? I mean, he's under contract, fully guaranteed. So whenever you cut him, trade him, you're still on hook for that money. What do you do? I mean, Joe Flacco is not the answer. He's not
No.
and you don't have anybody in the wings that's the answer. Obviously, you're going to be drafting late. You don't try to go and bring in a rookie. I mean, Watson is the answer. I mean, this is what his next year will be his third year of his contract. I mean, you would like to
His
see him
second
actually.
full actual season back with the team.
Yeah, I mean,
It's almost one of those things
the
where I feel
expectations to
like
me are just would be higher for Watson to
higher.
achieve. Like we did this with. No, I'm not taking a shot at Super Bowl winning MVP Joe Flacco because it's what he is. But Joe Flacco, that's at the end of his career, sitting on the couch, coming in and done what he's done. Deshaun Watson, I expect double that. I mean, he did this with this team without Nick Chubb.
Joe Flacco's doing this damn near at 40. You're in your 20s, and I can't even get this from you, which is unfortunate because Deshaun Watson. At one point, it was Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, and then it's just Deshaun Watson's.
That's what happens when you like
gone.
massages. I mean, massages they tire you out sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe Robert Kraft should trade for him.
That would be something, wouldn't it? They could go together.
Hey, they can go to the same place.
So what team? Okay, so what team of the playoff teams is under the most pressure as a team to the Super Bowl? Me personally, it's got to be the San Francisco 49ers, who has a top payroll at damn near every position on the roster outside of the quarterback. A top payroll at running back, tight end, wide receiver, left tackle, your linebackers, your safeties, your corners. They have all this money. Like you said earlier, NFC Championship game's not good enough. It's a Super Bowl win. Like, getting to the Super Bowl is still not good enough. You have to win the Super Bowl.
So a little bit of a side, put a little quick little pin in it. If you're the Niners and you don't make the Super Bowl, do you fire Kyle Shanahan and go after Bill Belichick?
This is something we've talked about before. I think Kyle Shanahan's job has to be on the line.
6 rings. Kyle Shanahan's been there and
on the line.
I mean, you're not gonna fire Kyle Shanahan for nobody.
To the Super Bowl with this roster outside of Brock and Christian McCaffrey. Your Fred Warners, all those guys that are
the defensive side's also there.
Were on the roster when you went last time. Yes, they were younger guys to an extent. Like Debo was obviously younger, but he was because he got paid the following year or the year
he got paid last year.
So, I mean,
but no.
Yeah,
so if you're the Niners, you're not going to fire the GM. Obviously, they're drafting well and they're handling. Yeah. Obviously, they have money to spend. You're not going to fire the head coach for nobody. Like, I mean, you're going to have like a Hall of Fame-esque type head coach to bring in. Do you go and sign, Bill Belichick and fire Kyle Shanahan? Do you see if the Steelers are willing to trade Mike Tomlin? You got to try to do something because obviously it's not working with this fancy offense. It's not working in Miami.
No, you're
with
right.
His predecessor.
This is pretty much the same team from last year. Pretty much identical from the team last year.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anybody outside that's really different outside of they're a year older.
Well, I think if Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt, I think they beat the Eagles and the Chiefs and 49ers rematch.
It's definitely something that I think people need to talk about more. Is if the 49ers don't make it, is it time to move on from Kyle Shanahan? I know it's tough to say that because people always say you can't keep firing coaches because it hurts development. But he's been there for quite a little bit, 8 years now, I think it is, 6, 7, 8 years somewhere.
It's like 7 years, I think.
So you've been to the Super Bowl. You've been to 2 NFC championships. I mean,
well, Brock Purdy's also the first quarterback outside of Jimmy Garoppolo that he's proven that he's been able to consistently win with. I mean, he's always kind of won with whoever, but Jimmy Garoppolo was the only quarterback that actually had a winning record with him, outside of now Brock Purdy, obviously. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, do you make a change at quarterback? Do you try to go and get yourself, you know, a Justin
And
Fields
that's the
maybe?
one thing you have to really ask yourself, too, if you're the 49ers. Is Brock Purdy really the guy that you think he is? Because you take away the weapons. Now, granted, you could say that about any great quarterback. You take away their weapons, they're not the same dude. To me, that there's some truth behind that, and there's not some truth behind that at the same time. But when he hasn't had his weapons there, he looks like a dude that should be a backup quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, do you say no to the 49ers trying for, say, a la Justin Fields and put him in that system? I mean, they thought what Justin Fields was Trey Lance.
Yeah, I was
They
about to say
shipped the
was
bed on
Trey
that one
Lance.
horribly. They could have gotten Justin Fields, but
Well, it was also unfortunate for Trey Lance because he never, after he got hurt and Brock Purdy did everything that he did, and then coming into the offseason, Kyle Shanahan said literally Brock Purdy would have to melt to lose the job. So Trey Lance never had the support anymore. It was gone. The support he had when he took over the team and then he lost it, he never got it back.
yeah, but even in like his that year that Trey Lance was the starter, he didn't. Brock Purdy
But
stepped
it
in and
was
it was
more
just
too
humming.
when they let Trey Lance take over, it was more of like not a rebuild, but like okay, let's build this to see where this really goes. And then he got hurt, and Brock came over, and then they kind of just
Well, it wasn't really a rebuild. I mean, the defense, like you've said, it's
like
been the
not a rebuild,
same.
but they were trying to figure out. Shanahan was trying to figure out how to build the Trey Lance around the offense or the offense around him. Like it was going to be one of those type deal things.
But I
And
mean,
then when
they
he got hurt,
implemented, but they implemented Brock Purdy, and it was just smooth sailing from there after that.
so yeah, it's definitely like. But at the end of the day, something will have to change. Rather at the quarterback, or maybe you move on from some of your piece. A piece that you have traded, try to get something more younger. I don't know. You have to do something because when you have all this money tied up into these players on this team and you're not winning,
They're just lucky they
it's a
don't have to pay their
problem.
quarterback yet.
Yeah, you don't even have to. Yeah, we're not even paying Brock. Like he can't even afford to buy a house. Like the dude poor.
Well, he has a
Like he out here
roommate.
living
It's
with a
okay.
roommate.
It's okay.
So yeah, to me the 49ers are under the most pressure. I didn't have another team that's under more pressure. I mean, obviously there's other teams, but that team to me is just under the most pressure because of the payroll and the expectation.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the Cowboys. I think most of the teams that for me that are under pressure, the most pressure reside in the NFC. I think the Cowboys are just because of that, of who they are, the stigma behind that team,
Yeah,
and I think they also have a lot of pressure behind them for Dak and McCarthy to prove that they can get it done. They can get over the hump because we know you can win the wild card round. Can you win the division round? Is Mike McCarthy going to crumble in time management again like normal?
like last year, the time
Like
management,
in the past
yeah,
year. I mean, he always
last year was a great
mismanages it.
example.
Even he mismanaged, during the season as well. That has cost them.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on all the coaching changes that have took place already since? I mean, New England moves on from Bill Belichick. They already hired a head coach very quickly. Mike Vrabel gets fired from Tennessee after winning Coach of the Year. What was it, last year or the year before?
Like 2 or 3 years ago.
2 years ago. Been there 6 years. 4 of those years were winning seasons. Um, uh, uh, Seattle's head coach, Pete Carroll, after 16 years there, a Super Bowl gone. Um, Obviously, of the Bill Belichick and Pete, they were parting ways where Mike Vrabel was just fired.
Well, I
Um,
think I think it's just shows kind of more of the class that the Seahawks and the Patriots organizations are, that we're not firing, we're just kind of going a different way versus the
what
Steelers are
were your
like just
initial
get out.
thoughts? though, when they literally Tennessee came out and said trying to trade Mike Vrabel would take too long, so we just decided to go that route. Like
I think it's kind of
Mike
more.
Vrabel, I think he had a
Well, I
little
think
bit
that's
of value.
well, that's kind of more of a respect thing for him to let him choose if he chooses to keep on coaching, to choose his next destination versus just kind of trading him to the best offer. So I think that's kind of a class act type of deal. Some of the Patriots could have traded Bill Belichick, but again, kind of a class act ordeal. But to me, I think that is kind of messed up on the Titans' part of firing Mike Vrabel. It's not his fault that they didn't draft well. He's not the GM, and
It's
they
not
he
his
always
fault
they
they
oh,
traded other players to Philadelphia.
that doesn't help either. I mean, he's always kind of stouted a good defense. I mean, he's a defensive coach. They just never really had any offense outside of Derrick Henry. I mean, he rode Derrick Henry pretty much his whole entire tenure. I mean, that's all he had outside of A.J. Brown that was coming on. But, I mean, Ryan Tannehill is a glorified quarterback wide receiver. I mean, that's not like he ever actually had a guy or really got any kind of special offense outside of just a ground and pound with Derrick Henry.
Yeah. So of all the head coaching vacancies that we have in the National Football League, why do you think that Eric Bieniemy cannot get a head coaching job? Is not linked to any of these jobs.
He made somebody mad. He on that blacklist. He on that blacklist like Snead. I don't know who he made mad, but he made somebody mad, and they're blackballing him or something.
It's crazy that he is not
a
got the
candidate
job. And the
been
reason I think
interviewed. With even with at least with he was with Kansas City, he just kind of got because of the Wayne Rooney rule, you have to interview somebody of color. So he was just kind of like coming in, we're interviews, so we stay within the league guidelines. He's not even getting that. And you look at the Commanders' statistics on offense, he put together a decent offense.
I mean, Sam Howell, was up there in passing yards and
yeah, I think Sam Howell was top 5 in passing yards, which is pretty impressive for a no-name quarterback.
Yeah, so I just think it's kind of crazy. I'm curious to see where a lot of these head coaches go. I mean, there's some big names out there. Obviously, Mike Vrabel, Bill Belichick, Jim Harbaugh. I'd still say EB should be in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of. I figured this should be the year that he would get the opportunity to actually get a head coaching job after.
To me, it's a slap in the face to I would say any guys out there that are trying to get their first head coaching job, not just EB. I'm talking about all the guys that you're going to go interview. What is it? The offensive coordinator from the Eagles?
Yeah.
How the hell is that guy getting a job? Do you not know what's going on over there in Philadelphia? They're in shambles. They are.
But what they looked like last year to now, absolutely.
Like, how do you 10-1, and then you're riding high, and then boom, you just flat fell. Like, I don't know what happened over there. I just think it's crazy that he's getting job opportunities over all these other guys that are just trying to get in the front door.
Yeah.
I don't think he deserves. And that's not taking nothing away from that man. I'm not saying that man don't work hard, don't deserve it, but when your team is in shambles like that, and you're getting head coaching opportunities over all these other guys out there that are just trying to get into the front door, I just think that's crazy.
I think it's crazy that we haven't heard about him having any just interviews at all. Like every year he's had, a handful of interviews. Nothing.
This would be the time to give him an interview. Like, clearly EB was a bigger part to our Kansas City Chiefs than everybody thought he was. He was that guy that held you accountable. Look what happened in Washington. He was pushing those guys, and those dudes were complaining.
Yeah.
They were complaining about having to work at a championship level. Like, do you want to be irrelevant your whole career?
Well, I mean, if you want to hire a coach with the championship pedigree, I mean, there he is, and nobody wants him. It's crazy.
So, I just think that's, it's crazy that he's been sitting on the sidelines waiting, and you have guys like Josh McDaniels that got a head coaching job. Obviously, Josh McDaniels not a head coach no more, but it's like, really? Like, you wanted that over that? Like, well, I would have took that before that.
I mean, considering how Josh McDaniels left the Colts at the altar, And then a couple years
I
later,
remember you were saying that I would never hire that man ever again. I
no.
would never after doing some stuff like that.
How can you
Never
trust
again.
him to run your organization when you're like, hey, yeah, I'll take the job, and then he's like, actually, I changed my mind. I'm not going to fucking take it. He's not a trustworthy guy. I mean, how can you trust him to run your organization?
How
But
can you
yet,
trust a guy to be a head coach that cheated as a head coach when he was with the Denver Broncos? Like you literally have a cheating scandal that you were caught doing,
well, he learned from the
and you were
best.
still.
I mean, he learned from the best. I mean, how do you think Bill Belichick got where he got? I mean,
I mean, but it's. And then the last thing I guess I would like to talk about is something real big is the NFL draft. It's being reported that Caleb Williams is not declaring for the NFL draft until he has got confirmation that the Chicago Bears are trading the number 1 pick because he has no desire to play in Chicago at all. No desire. So he is not declaring until Chicago his camp is told that the pick is being traded. What are your thoughts on that?
well, if those reports are true, then he put himself in a conundrum because there's a deadline that these players have to declare for the draft, which is obviously way before the NFL draft. So he's going to have to declare for the draft, which he should based off his up and down year he had with USC. And I think again he's one of those players. Like I think Marcus Harrison Jr. is going to slip in the draft as well once the process gets going. I can see Caleb Williams falling, being the second, maybe even the third quarterback taken. He's hasn't looked great this year. I mean, the
And
LSU
anyone that
quarterback has
thinks that you're
looked
crazy for
special.
saying that, you're wrong. I think you're right when it comes to Caleb. I think he could fall. You look at the other quarterbacks that are in this draft; they had way better years than he did.
Yeah, I think. I mean,
he went from a Heisman to he wasn't even in the conversation, thought about,
I mean,
brought up.
some of that's team success, which they didn't have this year. But he also, he put up numbers. He looks good. But
But do you think he's really a leader? Is he a franchising alter type player? He compares himself to Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. We've heard him make comments about, I see what those guys are doing. I'm not impressed. It's nothing I can't do. Bro, college and NFL are not the same. I don't know. They're just not the same. In college, you can go crazy, but we don't do that in the National Football League. When we started to hit 40 points in the National Football League, we're like, whoa, this is a game right here. Like,
well, I mean, you can't really knock him for having self confidence in himself and thinking he has talent, like the top tier quarterbacks in the league. But I mean, as far as leader of men, I mean, you got to question it when you're like trying to come out and say, I'm not going to play for the draft, or I don't want to play for this team, or I need, this came out earlier in the college, football season that whatever team drafts me, I want stake in that, for that franchise. It's like
bro,
what do you here for? Are you putting in the grind, or are you more here just for the bag? I mean, which one is it? And for someone kind of like Caleb Williams, it definitely is going to have to be the right scenario, and definitely someone to hold him accountable. And for him, I don't think he's going to have the opportunity to sit, but I think they have an opportunity to sit even half a season would be great and beneficial for him. But I think he's going to be thrust into the starting lineup. But I think he comes off almost a little too immature, which never bodes well.
I don't question his talent at all. The talent, you see it, obviously. It's the leadership. Can you get the team to rally behind you? I compare a big comparable example right now is the Giants. You've seen how the Giants have played without Daniel Jones under center. How those guys have been around those quarterbacks. The what's the rookie's name earlier before he got hurt?
Oh,
Tommy, was his name Tommy?
Yeah, Tommy something, yeah.
Tommy, and then he got hurt, but the team was rallied around him. They were excited. Tyrod Taylor comes in, and they you never saw that with Daniel. And if Caleb Williams,
Yeah,
that's the kind of how I look
they
at
brought
Caleb
that
Williams. Like,
sparks though.
Like, can you spark a team? That's going to be the big question for me. And like you said, too, he settled it. And he literally came out, don't forget either, he came out with a list of teams that he wanted to play for. Like, these are the teams I only want to play for. Like, I hate to break it to you, that's not how this works. This is not college. You can't just jump in the portal and be like, I'm going to transfer to where that doesn't work that way.
Well, it's not like there's
Now, it's not
been
like we haven't seen this before,
I would say,
obviously.
the most recent history is Eli Manning has done it. I
Yeah.
do believe John Elway actually has done it,
John Elway did it, yes.
and so it has happened, but it's not like I don't necessarily look at that level. It's not like even on a bigger scale that somebody could be able to do that, like a LeBron James, a Seth Curry type player coming into the league. And obviously, Seth Curry didn't come into the league like that, but somebody of that magnitude where they can gesture around to teams to like, look, I'm only going to play for these kind of teams and, make other teams bend to his will when the teams that he wants to play for, they're not willing to move up or, feel that he's worth giving up what they got to give up to get him.
It's definitely going to be something to pay attention to. I'm actually looking forward to the NFL draft. A lot of talent.
And Detroit at that.
Wide receivers, tight ends. If you want those in this draft, they're in there. They're available.
Yeah, there's definitely a depth skill position this year.
So, but that's it, man. I got nothing else, man. You got anything else you want to add tonight?
No, I think that's I'm good.
I'm ready for the playoffs tomorrow. It's gonna be intriguing, exciting.
It's gonna be cold. -30. -30 is gonna be cold, a little windy.
I'm excited, but appreciate y'all coming and joining us on J&B Unsupervised.